and it has flaws. But from an overall standpoint, Black Panther. Welcome back, MCU fans. The long-awaited sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, is finally hitting theaters this week, which means it's time to look back on 2018's Black Panther. As has become tradition on this channel, whenever a brand new MCU sequel is about to come to theaters, we gather right here and discuss the previous installment in this franchise within a franchise. We did it with Thor, and we've done it with many other MCU projects, and there's a playlist right here with all my MCU coverage in case you want to check it out. So we're going to talk all the spoilers, all the direction, all the themes, and how it changed the MCU, and of course how it builds up to this sequel. And the biggest praise one can give to this film is director Ryan Coogler, who builds this incredible, innovative, and brand new fresh world within the MCU that explores a brand new exciting culture with so many interesting characters in a story that has layers to it, that has global politics driving the drama, with debates and ideologies clashing that resonate because they mirror so much debates that we have in the real world. And it's a film that actually discusses tradition and the embracing of the future, and how we strike a balance between the two, and the ramifications of it, not only for each and every one of these individuals who have their worldviews so well defined through the film, but you actually examine how that impacts the world. And I'm very excited to see how the decisions in this film absolutely impact the course that the story in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever takes. The film takes place immediately after Captain America's Civil War, and we follow King T'Challa as he returns home to the reclusive, technologically advanced African nation of Wakanda to serve as the country's new leader after the death of his father, King T'Chaka. However, T'Challa soon learns that he is challenged for the throne by factions within his own country and without. The world building in this film never gets old. In the words of T'Challa himself, as they cross through that camouflage portal and bring us into the world of Wakanda, an exciting new world where we're allowed to dive deep into their culture, their traditions, and the individual characters within this kingdom, and how Ryan Coogler interweaves the world building of this film into the narrative itself that is so character driven, never stops being fascinating, because it feels like we dive deep, like Wakanda is a character in and of itself in this film. A beautiful, incredible blend of tradition and futurism, all combined in the way this kingdom works. From the merchants in the town square, to Shuri isolated in her lab, to the Dora Milaje, to each individual tribes, and how they embrace their tradition of naming a new king, of the ritual by combat in this incredible scene that not only has us meeting what each of these people, what each of these tribes mean to T'Challa, what they represent in terms of importance in the way this kingdom works, and we even meet the Jabari and one of the scene stealers in this film, M'Baku, played by Winston Duke. The way the first act in this film just dedicates itself entirely into establishing the world of Wakanda, but also establishing the worldviews of each individual characters that are the worldviews that will be clashing and transforming through this film, are brilliant. This is a movie that just has one exciting start and just kicks us off into one epic adventure. And it's entirely Ryan Coogler's direction that brings all these elements together, from Rachel Morrison's wonderful cinematography to Ludwig Göransson's incredible score that speaks so much to this individual culture and the individual identity of Wakanda, the magnificent production design with the ships and the buildings and the markets on the street and the costumes for each individual tribe, the dances that they do when building up to that trial by combat, the choreography in those action sequences in these very early stages of the film. It's all Ryan Coogler bringing these incredible, exciting, unique elements together, but still makes this world feel grounded. That mix of tradition and sci-fi technology that doesn't exist, but yet it feels so believable. It feels so real. He brings that through his direction, mixing all of these technical aspects. But another key element in Coogler's direction that brings this across is the collectively incredible cast, all giving magnificent performances because the characters are so well defined in their motivation, in their conflict, and in their worldviews and ideologies, and how they clash and feed into the entire drama of the film that feels so Shakespearean. It feels so Lion King. And that's, I believe, what makes it all so emotional, as T'Challa, still reeling from the death of his father, is put into this position as king. And his father believed Wakanda needed to go out there into the world, to extend its hand to other nations. And that cost him his life. And so now he strongly feels Wakanda needs to stay hidden away. They need to care about themselves, worry about themselves, and stay away from everyone else. A belief very much held by Okoye as well, but Nakia, she's a diplomat. She tried to be a warrior, but she believes Wakanda has the power and responsibility to help others. And so that's what she tries to do as this kind of black ops operative in the beginning of the film. And that puts her at conflict with T'Challa. That puts the two of them at odds. Comes Killmonger, one of the best Marvel villains, played incredibly by Michael B. Jordan, who kind of holds that same belief as Nakia, but an extremist version of it. And what makes Killmonger such a compelling character to watch in this film is because, for the most part, until the third act, he is not presented as the villain of the film. He is an antagonist, very much so. But first and foremost, he's a victim of the belief that T'Chaka once held, that T'Challa now holds, that Wakanda only helps themselves. And so this young child was abandoned because his father N'Jobu, he also wanted Wakanda to help the world. He also had this very extremist view that if Wakanda wasn't going to help the world, he was going to do it his own way. That creates the rift between brothers that now extends to these two cousins. And so there's this through line of grief through the film. How does T'Challa hold his grief? He's going to try and hide away. But trying to hide away is exactly what caused Killmonger to become this person consumed by grief and by pain, who wants to liberate centuries of oppression throughout the world with the gunpowder that comes with Wakanda, that comes with that technology, that comes with vibranium. And so throughout most of the film, for the first half of the film, you see him accomplishing everything that T'Challa and other Wakandans failed at, but it's very much accomplishing the same goal of killing Claw, of bringing him to justice, of taking back the vibranium that he once stole for Wakanda. And so they're directly at a crosshairs with one another. Not because they're going to fight and throw punches, because of what they inherently believe in. And how they brings these characters together, how they eventually confront one another and their ancestors in the ancestral plane, which is so incredible. These scenes are so profound throughout the film because they're not only the moments that these characters confront the sins of the father, proverbially speaking. These are the moments where the characters confront themselves. These are the moments where these characters come to Jesus moment. And so those moments are not visually awe-inspiring. They're narratively profound. They're dramatically impactful and meaningful for the story. And so I think this film accomplishes a lot on a narrative and character level. I also think Ryan Coogler, again, directs the shit out of this. He makes this feel like a James Bond movie. There's a little bit of Lion King, there's a little bit of tradition, a little bit of futurism, sci-fi, all the MCU greatness that we love. But he directs this like a James Bond movie, and so I want Ryan Coogler to direct an actual James Bond movie. My favorite sequence in here is the sequence in Korea, going into the casino, trying to bust Claw's deal with Everett Ross. That extension of the second into the third act is mesmerizing. It's my favorite section of the film. It's stylish, it is incredibly shot, the action is choreographed wonderfully and flawlessly. The mix of practical and VFX, as they do a ton of Texas switch in this supposed wonder going through the upper and lower floor of the casino, it's spectacular. And the car chase that follows the casino sequence is just as spectacular. From a visual standpoint, Ryan Coogler just allows colors to pop. From the buildings to the cars, the Black Panther suit, the energy bursts. There's so much elegance to the camera work in this sequence, much like there is throughout the whole film. And it highlights what each and every one of these characters bring to the table while allowing us to see a little bit of their rapport and the comedic flourishes that come from it. Black Panther himself, T'Challa, Okoye, and Nakia, even Shuri and Everett Ross. It's just a spectacular sequence. And after this, apart from the ritual by combat between Killmonger and T'Challa, I think the action in this film severely diminishes. That fight between the two cousins really work because it's the emotional height of the film. And I'm going to admit, when I first watched Black Panther, I legitimately believed that Killmonger did kill T'Challa because it is so reminiscent of Lion King, and because Ryan Coogler has a 5-act structure in this film, which is not common in blockbusters, much less Marvel Cinematic Universe blockbusters. So for the bulk of that sequence of dread, where Wakanda's world is turned upside down, there's this sort of new world order to it, and there's that incredible shot of Killmonger coming into the throne room, sitting on the throne, assuming command. The narrative weight, the visual flair of it all just come together impeccably, and you completely see the contrast of this streetwise, doesn't care for the decorum, for the poise of it all. He wants the power, and he now has it, and you feel the gravity of it all through the story and through the characters, where we see everyone going to M'Baku. I genuinely love the sense of despair that comes from seeing Queen Ramonda, Nakia, Shuri pleading to the Jabari for help after trying everything else, after Nakia pleaded to Okoye to betray the crown, betray her oath as a Dora Milaje. Where the Jabari, they have not been a presence in this film apart from the one scene early on where they clearly resent the traditions of Wakanda and T'Challa himself. Again, all these ideologies coming to clash with one another. Ramonda even pleads to Nakia to take the heart-shaped herb herself before asking M'Baku, who also refuses because, despite resenting these traditions, he respects that they're established. And T'Challa is alive, and T'Challa beat him, so he shouldn't be king. I love M'Baku so much, and despite not having a ton of screen time, he clearly has as strong convictions as everyone else in this film. This is what leads us into the final battle, which to me is the weakest part of the film. Now, it's very entertaining. It's this all-out big spectacle of a battle where all the tribes clashing against one another, against the Dora Milaje, even the Jabari come in to side with T'Challa. We see Michael B. Jordan relishing this villainous role where Killmonger is at his most ruthless and savage self, even after killing his own girlfriend to achieve what he wanted. This dude is in full homicidal, genocidal maniac mode. But this battle relies so much on CGI, and it's subpar CGI, not just for the context of the MCU, but for this film alone. The rest of the movie up until now had this great mix of practical and great visual effects, whether they be entirely CGI characters, entirely CGI action sequences, green screen, blue screen backgrounds. It all looked seamless. There was a great balance, much like Wakanda itself has a great balance of tradition and futurism. This third act does not have that. A lot of what takes that weight away as well, not just from a visual standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, is the suit. That is a big part of this entire film, and I spoke well about the Korea sequence, and I stand by that. But through most of these action sequences, T'Challa is in this suit and Killmonger is in this suit where they can absorb the impact and then release a giant explosion. Their trial by combat sequence works because they don't have that. They're defenseless. They can die, they can be hurt just like any other human being. In this final sequence, they arrange this way of falling down from this incredible height all the way down to the vibranium tunnels with the trains that glitch the nanotechnology, and that's how T'Challa finds an opening. But you can just tell that they wrote themselves into a corner with these invincible suits, and so they have to fall from these incredible heights that should kill them, but because they have the invincible suits, they don't. And so now there's this little hole and T'Challa is able to kill Killmonger. And it's a real shame because the first battle between Killmonger and T'Challa really works. The final moment between T'Challa and Killmonger really hits on those emotions. And we see the effect that the villain has on the hero. The villain wasn't right, but he had a point. He was not entirely wrong either. His belief that Wakanda should help is true. That's what changes T'Challa coming into this final battle. And it's an important lesson that he learns from the person directly opposing him. That's powerful. That's meaningful, not only as a moral to a story, but for T'Challa's character journey. And naturally, the impact that these characters have in one another is present in the script itself, but the way Chadwick Boseman conveys all these struggles, the way Michael B. Jordan conveys all this inner conflict when he goes into the ancestral realm, when he looks upon his father and they have that beautiful conversation. The performances in this film are fabulous. From beginning to end, they are faultless. With all the issues I have with this film, there are no issues with these performances. Chadwick Boseman was such a perfect T'Challa. And I really don't get how people say this character is boring. He's certainly not my personal favorite character. He's certainly not the most interesting character in my eye. But how is this righteous, brave, loyal king who just attempts to do what's best for his people, for his kingdom, how is this boring? I just find him so compelling to watch because he is so changed by the world around him. He doesn't stay stagnant. He doesn't become isolated. He doesn't exist in a vacuum from all the changes and everyone around him. He is changed by this world. He is changed by the people around him, by the actions of the people around them, especially by a person that was so against him, but changed so much of his worldview in a meaningful, weighty way. And that's the final note that we leave on in this film. Buying the building where his father killed his uncle, where his cousin's life came crumbling to the ground, and then the post-credit scene is T'Challa addressing the United Nations, Wakanda being revealed to the world. And I love that moment where the guy asks, oh, what can a third world country give to the world? What is so important about you guys? And that smirk, that recognition of we can handle this, guys. We're important to you. You just don't know it yet. And so there's a lot that this film accomplishes by the end. From a thematic standpoint, from a character standpoint, there's growth, there's clear evolution through this one epic story. But there's small stumbles along the way. I think the editing as well significantly gets worse as the film unfolds, where character resolutions mostly happen on screen, as Okoye doesn't have this clear resolution. Her final moment, apart from being right next to T'Challa when he addresses the United Nations, is telling her lover to surrender. And he does, but there's nothing after that, really. Nakia has a great moment of reconciliation with T'Challa, and I love their relationship, despite not occupying much screen time. But she should have been in that final scene, because that's her whole thing. She is the one that changed T'Challa into siding with her belief, into seeing the points she was trying to make, how diplomacy was important to Wakanda, to give its hand to the rest of the world, and she's not in that moment where he announces he's buying this building, and he announces it to Shuri, and it's a great moment. But it needed to be between Nakia. So there are just moments, scenes missing, cuts here that should have led to other scenes to make things more clear as the story unfolds. But from a character standpoint, overall from a narrative standpoint, this is just such a breath of fresh air. It's such an embrace of this unique culture and how it changes the MCU, how the decisions made in this film are significant to the MCU going forward, because Infinity War wouldn't have counted on Wakanda's help if not for this film. Endgame the same way. But before we dive into the waters of Talokan and explore the ramifications of this film into its sequel, Wakanda Forever, I need you to start the conversation about 2018's Black Panther in the comments below. What is your favorite moment of this film? What is your favorite suit in this film? And who is your favorite character? Anything and everything down there. And if you're enjoying this Black Panther MCU deep dive, there's many more MCU reviews right up here that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Or if you just love movies and TV, this is the place to be, so consider clicking that subscribe button and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. And now we see in Wakanda Forever how this decision that transformed the characters throughout the first film, that was so important and it was such a dynamic shift into the future of Wakanda, now is affecting another kingdom in Talokan. And it's the crux of the conflict in this second film. How does this nation that is revealed to the world, how does that affect other nations? Maybe they still wanted to remain hidden. Maybe they didn't want to extend their hand into the world. And now they're being affected by someone else's choice. Choices and consequences. This film establishes all that. And it has flaws. But from an overall standpoint, Black Panther really works in presenting a dynamic shift, a paradigm shift into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ryan Coogler's slick and sophisticated direction elevates an already layered adventure, rich with culture, thematic depth, and character-driven ideology. Chadwick Boseman brought regalness and gravitas to the role of T'Challa as a man who grows into a leader, leaving unquestionable impact on the MCU and the world. I'm giving Black Panther a B+. Thank you so much for watching, MCU fans. Get excited! There's a ton of Black Panther Wakanda Forever coverage coming your way this week. I cannot wait to see you there. Big thanks to my channel members for always supporting the channel. And until the next one, love each other and love the movies.